good people. We're going to just give the folks a couple of minutes to join us, and then we'll start our little family meeting. I pray all is well with you on this beautiful day. Kwojo Jakuta. Roll call. Where are we coming in from? Copy a seat. Good brother James. Blessings to you. So if you're signed in right now, just hang out. We're gonna be here for a few minutes before I start it. But you can enjoy the sweet sounds of Ogundeji Elebuibon, who's singing these wonderful songs for Orisha. All right, North Carolina's in the house. Let's see if you're as you're listening, let's see who can tell us what we're listening to. If you can hear the music. Okay, New Jersey's in the house. Greetings, blessings.
Epa òrìṣà o.
Òrìṣà epa.
Epa òrìṣà o.
Òrìṣà epa.
Epa òrìṣà o. Òrìṣà epa. Eyo. Èjì tá a bá là rẹ̀ o. Ojúrò ń gbé o. Aláṣẹ ọ̀gánmúlẹ̀rù. Òòṣà Olúfọ́n ni Dáúdù Ọbàtálá. A ò rí Dáúdù tí fi lúrú jiyàn. Àwa ò rí Dáúdù tí fi gbẹ̀gìrì jẹ́ka. A ò rí Dáúdù tí fi lápáta jẹ́kọ tí fi yangán sẹ́yangán. Ìbábá ọ̀dárè màrè yọ. Ìbábá ọdẹ fún máa fún ọ lẹ́fun mu. Àfàìmọ̀ ni òní jẹ́ ń bá ọdẹ jà àárọ̀. Ìjà ọ̀nì láre ìfọ́nilé o. Ifá nílé yèékùkùn ọmọ egungun tí sunkún adé. Gbẹ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ gbẹ̀gẹ̀dẹ̀ lẹ́yìn burú ẹ̀fọn láàyè. Alágbẹ̀dẹ ọ̀run mọ̀rímọ̀rí tí mọ̀rí ọmọ tuntun. Òrìṣà èèpà.
We got about 5 more minutes. If you're here, hang out for a second. And we're going to get going. Roll call. Where are you coming in from? Where are you? I know it's only 5 of us. I saw New Jersey. I manage my okay. Yeah, if I can figure out how to share it, I would. I'll ask the artist how I can get the tracks for you. All right, let's get into it, good people. Many blessings to you. At Cairo, I greet you good morning. Eko Jojakuta. I salute you on the day of Oya and Shango veneration. We give thanks for Oya and Shango's acceptance of our offerings and prayers this morning. I pray that your prayers have been accepted and your offerings have been accepted as well. May Oya and Shango continue to open up pathways to success, loyalty to your cause, and continued unadulterated, unfiltered, boundless joy. Ashe. Today I want to share just some, I think, simple ideas, but ideas that are, because of their simplicity, not shared enough and not shared with enough enthusiasm across the board. And it came to me through some recalling and thinking about my my career, my experience working within the culture. Early in my career, I got introduced to what they call community theater, Yoruba community theater. And Yoruba community theater was popularized by people like Duro Ladipo, Hubert Ogunde, and others who traveled around Yoruba land, 40 plus years ago in buses and vans and stuff like that. And they would perform, plays. Some of the plays were written by them, and it was like Nollywood, right? So we love Nollywood today. Well, the precursor to Nollywood was public theater. But the precursor to public theater was something that they call Alarinjo. Alarinjo, Alarinjo. You can go look it up and you'll be in for a nice treat. Alarinjo was a real traditional traveling theater, and it was characterized by a handful of stock characters, almost like what you would find in Carnival. So you find the wife, the policeman, the the monster, all these different characters that were built into the standard characters, and they wore a total masquerade. You couldn't see who they were. So these people were an extension of the Egungun society, and this society, the beginning of Alarinjo, is synonymous with, or parallel to, maybe we could say, a historical event that is Katunga. Katunga means like we shall rise again, and this is a medieval city of Yoruba land, of Oyo in particular. Katunga was, Oyo where it is today is not where Oyo was originally, and I've forgotten the historical events that took place, but the Oyo people, they had a war, they were defeated, and they had to relocate. When they got to their new location, though, they called it Katunga, which meant we shall rise again. Right? We got to go to this place because we've lost the war, but we're gonna get strong, and then we're gonna go back to where we came from, and we're gonna retake our original homeland. That was always the idea of Katunga. Okay? And time passed, though. I mean, generations. And they stayed, and people were, building homes, they were starting farms, they were establishing businesses, they were raising children. They became attached to the place that they had, adopted. So at some point, the king was with his diviners. They cast Ifa, and the time was deemed appropriate for them to leave Katunga and go back to the original settlement where they came from. Well, when that happened, some people were really happy because for whatever reason, the idea of their original home was strong in their lineages or strong in their quarters, and they were happy to finally be going home to hear about or excuse me, to go in and revisit the place that they had heard so much about. But some people were not happy, and they were concerned about the things that they were going to lose by abandoning their new home, or the only home that they knew. They were concerned about leaving behind the source of their wealth, the source of their comfort, the source of their identity. And so some of those folks who were unhappy and disapproved were among the chiefs. And so these chiefs got together and they conspired. They said, all right, Ifa has spoken. That means the king is going to have his priests and a retinue of other chiefs who will go out, and they're going to carry the sacrifice into the grove. And so the five of us are going to get together, and we're going to put on these masquerades. We're going to disguise ourselves, and we're going to come out, and we're going to scare the daylights out of the chiefs, and they're going to take it as a negative omen, and they'll decide that this isn't the time to go. And so that's what they did. And it worked. The chiefs and the priests came back terrified. They told the king, oh, this is an abomination. Something is definitely wrong. We saw something in the grove that we've never seen before. We heard something that we've never heard before. And we are certain that this is not the move. We cannot go back right now. This is a bad sign. And so they were about to, ratify that decision when one of the chiefs said, wait a minute, hold on. Let's give it one more chance. Kabiesi. Have the priests and the chiefs go back and make the sacrifice one more time. And if it happens the second time, then we can accept it. But I have an idea. I think I can solve the problem. He had a suspicion that it was some of his fellow chiefs who had conspired. So he rounded up some of his people, and they went and they hid in the woods as well. And so when the priests and the chiefs came to bring the sacrifice, and the set of chiefs who wanted to prevent the sacrifice from being offered came out to scare them, the chief who had offered to solve the problem came out with his group of people. They surrounded what appeared to be the ghosts and the monsters, and they captured them, bundled them up, carried them back to the palace. And there they were before the king. And he says, Your Highness, Kabiesi, as promised, I have solved the problem. The sacrifice was offered, and these are the culprits who tried to stop the sacrifice from being offered a second time. And so the king said, who are these people? What are these creatures? Let's find out. And so they unmasked them, and there they were, the five chiefs who were part of the king's court. The king says, okay, you captured them. They're your prisoners. You do with them whatever you like. Execute them all right here if you like. But the chief thought, he said, no. You know what? Since they want to wear masks and they want to come out and they want to act and pretend, then what I want, Your Highness, is my own palace. I want my own special quarters, and as a compensation for having done this great work, when we get to the new territory, I want my own palace, and I want these five guys to put on their costumes and entertain my guests anytime someone comes. And so it was. That was the birth of the Alarinjo. And so anytime someone came to this chief's palace, the Alarinjo would have to come out, and they'd have to sing, they'd have to dance, they'd have to act, they'd have to mime, they'd have to do all the stuff to entertain his guests. And so it continued generation after generation after generation. But the reason why I'm telling you this particular story is because we are facing a very similar sort of a dynamic. And it is playing out on a global scale for all of us who are Orisha devotees, some of whom recognize ourselves as Yoruba descendants around the world. Just like old Oyo was scattered and spread out and people had to relocate, our ancestors have had to relocate. Some have found themselves in Trinidad, some in Brazil, some in Haiti, some in Venezuela, some in Ecuador, some in Cuba, some in Curacao, right? The people are spread out all over the place. Generations have passed. New cultures have arisen. New customs have been adopted. People have become identified with their new land. And they cherish their identity. They keep that same sense of pride and honor that we brought with us from Africa. But now it's been transferred to a new place. And we've suddenly gotten the opportunity to return, right? Either physically or ideologically. We're able to see Africa again for the first time. And some people don't want to go back. Some people don't want to reconnect. Some people feel threatened that going back means leaving what we've built here. Going to Africa, identifying ourselves with Africa means diminishing all of the things that we've accomplished in this place. And they're willing to do all kinds of acts, antics, and shenanigans to prove and demonstrate that they need to stay where they are. Okay? And so I want to address that first of all. Just acknowledge that that's the case. And part of that is human nature. We do identify with where we've grown up. And there just is no way to compromise that or diminish that. But there's another dimension of this story that's also at play that I want to address. And it comes out of a more of a proverbial story that probably has no historical validity, but it just illustrates what it means for people to have partial information and then come together and try to make sense of it all once they've identified with that partial information. And this is the story of the four blind men and the elephant, which you probably have heard. There's four blind men, they're going down the road, they bump into an elephant. Because they're blind, they can't see the whole. One of them thinks that it's a tree. Another one thinks it's vines. Another one thinks it's a big stone. Another one thinks it's a wall. And they start to argue and they start to fight. And if they could reach one another, they probably would have hit one another with their canes or something like that. But all they could do is shout back and forth, louder and louder about what they think it is. I think it's a wall. I think it's a stone. I think it's a tree. I think it's a vine. Back and forth, they're shouting. Finally, somebody who can actually see everything, the elephant plus the four blind men, says, you guys are all wrong. It's not what you think it is at all. It's an elephant. And as soon as he says, oh, it's an elephant, then in their mind, they can complete the whole. They can say, oh, I get it. This part that I bumped into must be the trunk, and this must be a tusk, and this must be the side, right? I get it. It's an elephant. Okay, and they're able to make sense of it. The problem that we have, if we take that story as a metaphor for the African diaspora, is that the elephant represents our original identity. It's who we were in antiquity, before there was such a thing as a global diaspora as it exists today. And maybe we can look at the four, blind men as different branches of the Orisha family. Brazil, Trinidad, Haiti, Cuba, just for example. And generations have passed where one person they have bumped into a part of the elephant, this massive thing. One of them, retained, each of them retained a different part of the identity. And they bump into one another, and each one is so certain that they know what it is based on what they've been doing for generations. And they're so insistent that it is what they think it is. They've got people behind them, right, who are invested in this idea that it's a wall, it's a tree, it's a stone, it's vines, right? They've been able to solve their problems based on this idea of what they think it is. Finally, somebody comes along who can see the whole of it and say, no, that's not it at all. You only have a part of the equation. What you're really trying to do through your branch is restore the identity, the whole identity. Each one of you has a part that's necessary to restore the African mind. Each of you has a part, but none of your parts is going to be functional or complete without the other parts. But you've got to have it clear that this is ultimately what we're trying to do. Now, the challenge is the person who has been telling you this for 30, 40 years, has obligations too. So 30 years ago, the Babalawo would have told you. When I got introduced to Orisha, the Babalawo told me, this is what you're doing. This is what it is. When I asked them questions and I gave them my understanding, they would tell me, no, it's not like that. I'll give you one example. By my lineage, by my maternal lineage, more explicitly, I have inherited Ogun. And I know this by the work that my family does, or they have done. They're all deceased, right? But what I know about all of the work that they did, it's classic Ogun. Classic, from A to Z. And so I remember going and actually being in Nigeria and telling this to the Yawos. Hey, this is what my family does. This is who we are. Right? And my thinking was, I need to be initiated to Ogun. And the response was, I don't understand. It sounds like you already have Ogun. Based on what you just told me, how you are, how your family is, you have Ogun. Let's ask what we need to do to venerate Ogun for you. Let's ask what we need to do to satisfy the obligations of whatever your family has or you have to Ogun, because it sounds like that's already who you are. And it clicked. Oh yeah, that's exactly how I had studied it, things that I had read in scholarly papers and in books. So we asked and we did it, and they laid it out. And so periodically I have to do something for Ogun to satisfy my ancestral promise. Right? Now they're not going to tell you that. Now if you come in with a and you say Ogun 3 times, they're going to tell you need to get initiated to Ogun today. Right now. And then if you say Oshun 3 times, they're going to tell you need to be initiated to Oshun 3 times. You don't even have to say anything. Somebody's going to be in your inbox telling you. I got the feeling, just because they saw your pictures on Facebook, I think that you're really closely associated with Obatala. Obatala told me to tell you that you should be initiated to Obatala right away. Right? That's the difference between 30 years ago and today. 30 years ago, people would tell you the reality of how to satisfy your spiritual obligations. But the hard part is that on our side, as members of the diaspora, we're so committed to what we understand it to be and what we want it to be that we find it difficult, if not impossible, to embrace the reality of the tradition as it truly is. You add to that the fact that the economic disparity between the United States and Nigeria is so huge that the person who's trying to tell you year after year after year after year, maybe not you, I'm not talking about explicit this individual and you as an individual, I mean as a collective, where the message keeps coming over and over and over again that this is what the reality of Orisha is, but the people here are insisting that it's something different, and they're willing to pay thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, eventually, the imperatives of reality kick in, And the guy says, yeah, sure, you can receive that. Bring me $5,000. Yeah. You got a friend too? Yeah, bring him. I'll give both of y'all this thing for $5,000. Yeah. Because we're insisting that it be what we want it to be. And so I want to be that voice of preservation. I want you to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that the way you're coming into Orisha today is not the way people have come into Orisha for all antiquity. This is not the way it has been done. And it's important that you understand that, because like the people of Katunga, we have a mission. The mission has always been the same. It's in the name, Katunga. We will rise again. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt, we've always known that we're going back. And going back is, tricky language. But we are going to restore our original identity. That's why we have retained these practices. That's why we have retained these beliefs. That's why we have retained this religion. That's why. That's always been what's on our ancestors' mind. To free ourselves and be able to express ourselves according to our original mind. But over generations, we've lost sight of it. And if we're unclear about what we're doing, the real purpose for what we're doing, we're just going to continue to get lost in the minutia and the details. And every little nuance becomes justification for all-out war, or just these irreconcilable differences, because everyone thinks that your purpose is just trying to solve your little problem or to make sure that you look right. What about the collective vision? What's our shared story? We need a shared story that is told in Africa, that's told in the Caribbean, that's told in Latin America, that's told in North America, that's told in Europe. We need one story that will remind us as children of the diaspora that we come from one root. We share a common ground. We have a common vision. We're all working toward the same thing from different angles. We need that unifying story to be at the forefront of our consciousness at all times, so that we never lose sight of why the details matter. The details are never supposed to divide you. Wisdom doesn't divide a family. Wisdom doesn't divide a community. Wisdom unifies a family. Wisdom unifies a community. When words of wisdom are spoken, it brings clarity. It brings understanding. It brings peace of mind. So I want to urge all of those of us who are holders of a little tiny bit of wisdom. Use your wisdom to bring people together. Use your wisdom to open people's minds. Use your wisdom to deepen people's understanding of who we are as one, so that we can rise again and we can do what it is that our ancestors had intended for us to do from the very beginning. So on this day of Oya and Shango, I pray that they will work together to empower you and strengthen you in irrefutable ways, in ways that are completely beyond compromise. That the strength and the forcefulness of Shango and Oya will embolden you and empower you to be loyal to the original vision of our ancestors, and to do things that will ensure that the legacy of our tradition will remain intact, and that our children's children's children will benefit from our willingness to stand together as one to deliver on the ancestral promise. Ashe. May your blessings increase, and I look forward to your comments in the comment section. Let's look at this at the beginning as the beginning of a conversation, and I'm sure that together we'll be able to take it to the very highest level. Until later, bye for now. Odabo.